don't ban Bitcoin. Bitcoin bans governments. Bitcoin is a global tier one money. We've only had two in history, gold and U.S. Treasury bills. And whatever the U.S. does, it can only hurt the U.S., right? And if the U.S. wants to take itself out of the Bitcoin game, like Senator Cynthia Lummis was begging and saying, look, we don't want to be left out of the Bitcoin revolution. Please don't be foolish. There's not much anyone can do. I mean, some countries get it, like El Salvador. They're making Bitcoin legal tender. Their GDP is set to triple. Property prices are skyrocketing. There's a great feeling of enthusiasm in the country, and that's gonna follow all over Latin America. Nigeria is going hyper Bitcoinization. Their economy is set to do incredibly well based on a Bitcoin standard. So the U.S. Is in the first world, but if they continue this attitude, they're going to very quickly drop into the second world, if not the third world. You know, this is the 50-year anniversary that the Nixon shock closing the gold window, and we went on a pure fiat money global standard. And the U.S. Senate is one of the chief beneficiaries. They just print a lot of money. They take it for themselves. They're entrenched oligopolists, and they're crooks. So if it takes Bitcoin to clean up the crooked Senate in America, then so be it. They should all be gotten rid of, in my opinion. I think the entire political establishment at this point has proven itself to be worthless. We know that very few senators read these bills. You know, you ask the question, well, will senators ever educate themselves about Bitcoin? How about should senators read the bills that they're signing into law? We know that they don't. We know that people slip things in at the last second to curry favor with their corporate overlords, principally the energy industry or the defense contracting business companies that own them. And they do this in a very crooked manner. It's not government buying for the people. It's a corpocracy buying for the oligarchs. These people in the Senate are like goldfish. You can feed them and feed them and feed them, and they're going to eat themselves to death, right? They're not thinking. They're just jaws. They just eat. That's all they do. They're parasites. They're like tapeworms. Central bank digital currencies don't compete with Bitcoin. They're centralized. They're easily hacked. They're put forward by the same people who do the fiat money. It's just a digital version of fiat money. We already have digital money from the central banks already. They're just repeating themselves. It's just more of the same. It doesn't compete with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is decentralized. It's unconfiscatable. It's uncensorable. It's unhackable, if you will. So this is a vastly different situation. It shows that they're desperate and they're trying to catch up to Bitcoin. And the only way they know how to do it is to kind of do the same thing they've been doing for decades, print money and pretend like there's not inflation, pretend like there's not a wealth and income gap. It's all about game theory. So first of all, if two people want to transact in Bitcoin, any two spots on planet Earth, it's uncensorable. You can't stop it because it's behind an encrypted shield that's impenetrable. So it's never going to be stopped. That's number one. Number two, because as I said before, Bitcoin is the first global reserve currency money that we've seen since gold and treasury bills, and it's global, and we've seen that countries are adopting it, and in so doing, they are transforming their economies outside of the U.S. dollar hegemony, particularly in Latin America, where the dollar is used as a weapon. One of the big mistakes America made was weaponizing the U.S. dollar by sanctioning Iran, by interfering in the SWIFT system, by sanctioning Julian Assange, the money to Julian Assange through the PayPal and the credit cards and all those financial intermediaries. They weaponize themselves. So countries are saying, you know what, we're just going to create our own. We're going to go to Bitcoin, and America can drop dead. We don't care. They're not giving us anything. Nothing. They don't ship anything. They don't produce anything. It's all made in China. America's the consumer of last resort. Well, we could get consumers in Africa. We don't need the American consumer. Forget them. I'd be short the U.S., in a big way. The U.S. Treasury bond is probably, I know Michael Burry is short the U.S. Treasury bonds. I know it's been a widowmaker for 20 years. Everyone who's tried to short the U.S. Treasury bond has been carried out on a stretcher. And it's it's a trade that has not worked for many years. But at some point it will work. And the U.S. Treasury bond will drop 50%. Yields on those treasuries are going to go to 5, 6, 7%. And the U.S. is going to have to put out the going out of business sign. There's no coming back from that. With Bitcoin, it's unconfiscatable. It's unlike the US dollar or gold, which is confiscatable. So it doesn't matter if you show up to my house with, a battalion of Marines. You can't get my Bitcoin. it's secured behind an encrypted firewall that's impenetrable. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to try to sweet talk me out of my Bitcoin, offer me something that I want to exchange for. And by the way, if I'm unhappy, I'll simply leave. I'd rather live in El Salvador, where they have seen the light. They're ready to embrace Bitcoin and outsource the monetary policy to Bitcoin. There doesn't need to be a Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, a Bank of Japan. Outsource your monetary policy to Bitcoin. Let Bitcoin do for you what you couldn't do for yourself, and that is have a sound money economy. The senators are bickering, blah, 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 and Bitcoin didn't stop. TikTok, next block. Nothing can stop it. They moved 40-50% of the mining capacity out of China. It's now in Texas and Uzbekistan, and the blocks kept coming. The hash rate dropped by 50 or 60%. Now it's on the rise again.
Right.
It shows you that the network is impenetrable. The network nothing can stop the network. No army, no standing army, no country, no group of countries, the IMF, the World Bank. Nobody can stop Bitcoin blocks from propagating every 10 minutes. That's a fact. And some countries realize it and say we can build an economy around this outside of the US dollar and be free of the colonial American interests that have been plaguing our region for decades. And they're doing it. Nigeria is saying, hey, you know what? We've got 200 million people in our population. We have problems with our currency. Well, let's just go to a Bitcoin standard and let entrepreneurialism rise. The politicians have nothing to say about this. They're not important in this equation whatsoever. There's no American politician that has anything of any importance to say other than they are now a Bitcoiner, like some of them are. We have a fifth column inside the Senate. We've got at least 3 senators now that are Bitcoiners. And when the midterm elections are happening next year, this is going to be a single vote issue. There's a lot of people will lose their jobs because they don't have a good position on Bitcoin. A lot of new politicians will pick up and get jobs because they are pro-Bitcoin. Remember, all the politicians in the military and all the apparatus of state is run on fiat money, and the value of that fiat money is collapsing. And a lot of those people are going to switch over to Bitcoin. You say politicians don't like it. I'll predict here on this show with 100% certainty that within 4 years, half the politicians in America will be Bitcoiners and working extraordinarily hard to make Bitcoin standard in America.